Council management then emailed the councillors to say that in the spirit of collegiality the meeting would go ahead on Thursday, thereby vindicating the legal analysis that we had, that they had no basis whatsoever. So the meeting will now go ahead on Thursday. There will be a very close vote. There's 40 councillors, there's 14 Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael councillors, and there'll be a vote on whether the rent hikes go ahead on the 1st of July or not. There's a big campaign to encourage councillors to vote against these massively unjust rent hikes that will see average rents go up by more than €1,000 by the people who can least afford to pay these increases. Council management has indicated that if the vote is passed to stop these rent hikes, they will not implement that decision. If that happens, so if we win the vote and then they refuse to implement that decision and proceed with the increase in rents from the 1st of July, we will have no choice but to go to the High Court to prevent this going ahead against the wishes of councillors. It will be against the wish of two decisions of councillors now, one unanimous decision to say there should be no increase until there's a proper consultation. There has been no consultation whatsoever. The council management don't even claim to have conducted a consultation. And then secondly, the vote on the Section 140 motion. So I think this is a very, very important issue. It has wider ramifications because this process is happening obviously in other councils. Second point I just mentioned briefly is in relation to, it's good to see some stirrings from the backbench of Fianna Fáil in relation to undermining what is left of our neutrality by removing the triple lock. I've seen the Minister, Helen McEntee, say that, this is very clear in the programme for government, so Fianna Fáil have no basis to be complaining about it. I have the programme for government, and it says we will reform the triple lock legislation while also ensuring that amendments to the legislation are in keeping with our values and our policy of active military neutrality. I mean, that goes against what's in the legislation. I mean, the government, interestingly, at the heads of bill stage, was completely open that this is getting rid of the triple lock, that it's not keeping the triple lock, it's not reforming the triple lock, it's not amending the triple lock, it's getting rid of it. To quote from the general scheme of the bill will provide for the removal of the existing requirement regarding the triple lock. The triple lock is gone as a result of this bill. So they can't even point to the programme for government, never mind a mandate in terms of the manifestos of various parties. The bottom line point we say is we think this is central to neutrality. Neil Martin said it was central to neutrality previously, and at the very least people should get a vote on this. Put this to the people. If you're so confident that you win the argument that we need to get rid of what is left of our neutrality, put it to the people and decide, do we want to give the freedom to this government and any government into the future to send Irish troops abroad on NATO missions that do not have any UN mandate? That's fundamentally what this comes down to. Thirdly, obviously Pride Parade is on this Saturday. We're in Pride month. We will be participating in the parade, celebrating the advances that we've had so far, but also still fighting for liberation for LGBTQ people. It's really concerning to see that Malachy Steenson has called a protest, I think an hour or 2 hours after Pride Parade is due to take place, in what seems to be a very deliberate targeting of Pride. He's made comments previously criticising Pride, having a go at it. He previously threatened to protest against St. Patrick's Day on the grounds that that was a sort of pride. So it's really worrying to see him try to mobilise people against Pride. I think the mask will be slipping. Many people will see that, look, there's a broader agenda that this guy has, which includes rolling back the rights of gay people, rolling back the right to get married, and so on. So it's very, very concerning to see this happening. And I think there's many people who may listen to some things that Malachy Steenson says, but who will be concerned about this attempt to mobilise people against LGBTQ people on Pride of all days. Last thing just to flag is our bill to ban hair coursing came out of the lottery, so will be debated Thursday week with a press conference on Thursday with a big petition campaign online, people writing to TDs and so on. And we think this is an historic opportunity to ban hair coursing and join the vast majority of other European countries in getting rid of this barbarous so-called sport.
Okay, directly after talking to you here, I'm going over to Central Bank with my committee, the Budget Oversight and Scrutiny Committee, to meet with the Central Bank, with Gabriel McLough. And I think that it is worth noting that yesterday McClough has indicated that he thinks the inflation crisis as a result of Trump and Israel's war in the Middle East is going to get worse. Now, that should give us very serious cause for concern, that the central bank are warning the inflation crisis is still going to get worse, even if there is some sort of deal between Trump, Israel and Iran, which is far from certain, I would say, but that the inflation crisis, the cost of living crisis, is going to get worse, because in this country we have Bernardo's coming out today saying that 1/3 of people in this country have at one stage or another in the last year gone into arrears, unable to pay their energy bills, and 30%, nearly a third, are struggling to put food on the table for their children. So the idea that things are going to get even worse, and then we had the report from Eurostat yesterday saying that we have the highest housing costs, health costs, and some other costs, and the second highest cost of living in the whole of Europe. And it's set to get worse. That's what the central bank is telling us, and yet the government have failed abysmally to take any sort of measures to seriously control a cost of living crisis that is absolutely crushing hundreds of thousands of working class people's daily lives. So we will again say why we think it's critically important that half measures have to end. We need price controls and rent controls. We have a bill, of course, proposing that energy prices should be capped. We also believe there should be key essential goods, baskets of goods prices should be capped on those, and that we need meaningful rent controls that will actually set rents at affordable levels. And we again reiterate, and we were the first to call for this, others are calling for it now, that we need a state construction company to build not-for-profit housing. Part of the reason we have the highest housing costs and rents is because of profiteering by property developers, speculation on land and property, and profit gouging by corporate landlords and greedy people who make money from the housing crisis, and the government have failed to address that, either by proper rent controls or by seriously expanding the capacity of the state itself to build not-for-profit housing, social and affordable housing. Secondly, I will also be raising with Gabriel McClough the issue, just to mention it, of the Israeli war bonds. It is absolutely outrageous that the Irish Central Bank is still facilitating the sale of war bonds that have funded Israel's genocide against the Palestinians and their wider war against Lebanon, against Iran, a war that's not only claiming, and a genocide not only claiming the lives of tens and tens of thousands of people in the Middle East, but is actually exacerbating the cost of living crisis for people here in this country and across the world. So it's shameful that the Irish Central Bank is doing that, and that the Irish government are allowing them to do it, and I'll be taking that issue up with them as well. Just also to say that we have amendments in, along with others, about the Occupied Territories Bill that goes to committee stage this evening. Our amendments will seek to include services. Absolutely outrageous that 70% of the trade done between this country and the occupied territories is in services, and the government intends, and it seems isn't planning to change tack, intends not to include services in the prohibition of trade with the occupied territories, effectively gutting the Francis Black's Occupied Territories Bill, which is an absolute shame. And what they're doing is trying to deceive the Irish public, pretending we're imposing sanctions, in reality not, seriously imposing sanctions. We will also have amendments going even beyond the Occupied Territories Bill, as we did a number of weeks ago, saying in the aftermath of the genocidal horror that has been visited on Gaza in the last 3 years, the occupation of Lebanon that's ongoing, there should be a complete economic boycott of the entire Israeli state, not just the occupied territories, and we will have amendments to that effect. I would also just like to mention briefly that We have been part of convening a coalition of groups, organisations, anti-war groups, Palestine groups, left opposition groups, to organise protests around the EU presidency, and there will be a protest on July the 1st at the opening event, focusing in particular on protecting our neutrality and the shameful complicity of the European Union with the genocide against the Palestinian people. Now, we don't expect that's probably going to be a huge protest in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, but it is a signal of intent that we intend to mobilise serious numbers in opposition to EU policy, particularly the drive towards militarisation, the threat that poses to our neutrality. It's going to be intimately tied up with the attack on our triple lock and EU complicity with the genocide. And we will be highlighting all of this costs ordinary people money here, because all the money being poured into weapons and militarisation and the military-industrial complex is also actually costing ordinary people in terms of the cost of living here. Very final point I want to make is on the redress issue, and obviously the school, the survivors of the horrific abuse of the hands of the principal in the Cork school, and their demand that the government actually develop a redress scheme which gives real redress to those who are victims of that. But